Hi, BookTube. Well, I've reached the end of Rocket Summer. I've read 4 science fiction books this month, and this last one that I'm going to talk about is the first of these 4 books to take place in the future, but it's also fittingly the first of these 4 that actually has rockets. It makes it a fitting book to end on. And that last book is Nova by Samuel Delany. The basic story of Nova focuses on a ship captain who gets together a crew to go on a mission into space to find a nova, which to my science ignorant mind is a new star, is either a new star or an exploding star or something big and bright and hot from which they can swing by in their ship and gather this element called Illyrian. And with this huge quantity of this element, the captain can drive down the price of this element, which will boost his family's business and destroy the business of this other rival family. The novel makes this a lot more exciting than I'm making it sound. But even so, that is really not the appeal of Nova. What really makes this story is the world that Delany creates and the characters that he fills it with. And just to briefly list them, you have this one character called the Mouse, who is kind of a loner. He plays this instrument called the syrinx, which is this weird kind of machine. I mean, it's hard to describe, but it's like a really difficult instrument to play, but when you can do it well, it like produces images and sound and even like scent. You have a character whose name is Caton, I believe, who is like a pseudo-intellectual who, in the year 3100 something is planning on writing a novel, which even he admits is kind of a completely, fruitless endeavor. But he's very determined to do it, and he's just got to get enough notes first before he starts. He's just got to nail down his subject, and then he'll start writing. You have the captain himself, who is this King Arthur type figure. I mean, you'll find that the book is basically a sci-fi take on the quest for the Holy Grail, which actually plays into the book as it goes along and even ties into the ending. The ending of this book is just great. And then just the stuff that Delany is able to come up with. I mean, he creates this science fiction world in which most humans are now cyborgs. They have on their arms these sockets that they use to plug into machines to use them. And in one part of the book he describes it as, in the old days, meaning like, in the 1960s when this was written, and and even in the time before that, you had factories, and these factories were filled with people who did all these different tasks. And then later on, humans invented robots to take over most of these tasks for them. But you still had plenty of humans in the factories, kind of supervising the robots. And then we invented these sockets, which allow one person to plug into a factory and control the entire process. Which got me wondering about, okay, if you have one person controlling each factory, then you've got a lot of people who are out of work. But the book doesn't go quite into that much detail. Well, on top of that, the book is also kind of like has a proto-cyberpunk vibe, and it has in 2 paragraphs one of the best distillations of the dystopian cyberpunk vibe that I've ever seen. I mean, I'll find the passage in the book and put it up on the screen, but it's there's one short paragraph that describes the character of the Mouse on the moon Triton, which is one of the moons of Neptune. And in the first short paragraph, he describes the Mouse walking down this street or wherever, and looking up in the sky, and he's seeing ships going by. He's seeing Neptune itself in the sky, like all this amazing stuff above him. And then in the next paragraph, it says he walked down the street, past all the bars and cheap hotels and everything, and I was like, man, that is cyberpunk right there. You know, like the crazy, you know, futuristic upper level, but then once you go to the street level, it hasn't really changed much. You know, it mostly stays the same. I think I mentioned this when I was talking about Housekeeping, that I tend to ramble and just go blank when I'm talking about a book that I really, really like. It's hard to put into words just how good they are, because the books do such a good job of speaking for themselves, you know. And that's how I feel about Nova. If you're looking for a science fiction book, just a swift yet detailed science fiction book to get just like swept away by, this will do the job. And so if I was to rank these Rocket Summer books, I liked all four of them, but number 4 I would have to put The Shrinking Man, which is kind of fitting, I guess, right? 3, Earth Abides. 2, War of the Worlds. Number 1, Nova. I was worried that that by starting with War of the Worlds, I had started with a showstopper. You know, you know, like when I was reading The Shrinking Man, I was thinking, oh man, you know, it's really going to suck if War of the Worlds turns out to be the best book that I read this month. But Nova came in and knocked it off the top. So that's it for this BookTube event. Sometime later on today, I'm going to put together an August TBR, like a brief and tentative August TBR. So, thank you for watching.